You lazy, useless woman! Get out of my company before I have security throw you into the streets like the trash you are!" The words echoed through the marble lobby of Zenith Holdings, Nigeria's third-largest investment firm, as every head turned toward the unfolding drama. Welcome to Tales by AJ, where we bring you the most captivating African stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you so much for your continued support. We couldn't do this without you. Before we dive into today's emotional journey, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Now, let's get into this story. Obioma Nwankwo froze, her mop handle trembling in her calloused hands. Dirty water dripped from the bucket at her feet, creating a small puddle on the pristine Italian tiles she'd been cleaning since 4:30 that morning. Her faded blue uniform, worn thin from 3 years of daily washing, hung loose on her petite frame. At 28, life had already carved worry lines around her eyes that made her look a decade older. Standing before her like an avenging god was Mr. Emeka Okonkwo, the CEO of Zenith Holdings, a man whose custom-tailored Tom Ford suits cost more than what Obioma earned in 2 years. His dark skin gleamed with expensive moisturizer, and his gold Rolex caught the morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. His nostrils flared with rage, and the vein on his temple pulsed visibly. "Sir, please, I was just—" Obioma began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Silence!" Emeka's voice boomed across the lobby. Junior executives clutched their leather briefcases tighter. The receptionist's perfectly manicured fingers paused over her keyboard. Even the security guard by the entrance stood straighter. "I received a report that you were sleeping in the storage room on the 42nd floor yesterday afternoon. Sleeping, while my company pays you to work." Obioma's heart hammered against her ribs. "No, sir. I never slept. I was organizing the cleaning supplies. Mrs. Fumalayo asked me to inventory everything before—" "Do I look like I care about your excuses?" Emeka took a threatening step forward, and Obioma instinctively stepped back, nearly tripping over her bucket. "You people are all the same. We give you jobs out of charity, and this is how you repay us? By stealing company time?" The word charity stung like a slap. Obioma had worked harder than anyone in this building. While executives arrived at 9 and left by 5, she started before dawn and stayed until the offices gleamed. Her hands were permanently rough from bleach and disinfectant. Her back ached from bending over toilets and scrubbing floors. But she'd never complained, never asked for time off, never been late once in 3 years. "You people?" she repeated softly, something flickering in her tired eyes. "Sir, I have never missed a day. I have never—" "Human resources!" Emeka shouted, not even looking at her anymore. He'd already dismissed her from his consciousness. To him, she was nothing, a problem to be removed, like a stain on expensive fabric. "Where is HR? Someone process this woman's termination immediately." From behind a cluster of potted plants that cost more than Obioma's annual rent, Mrs. Ngozi Ekwensi emerged. The head of human resources was a stout woman in her 50s, wearing a purple Ankara dress and a matching jella that added 6 inches to her height. Her expression was carefully neutral, but her eyes darted between the CEO and the trembling cleaner with unmistakable discomfort. "Sir, perhaps we should discuss this in private," Mrs. Ngozi suggested gently, her Lagos accent thick with diplomacy. "Standard protocol requires—" "Standard protocol?" Emeka laughed, a harsh sound that held no humor. "I am the protocol in this company. I don't need HR procedures to fire an incompetent cleaner, give her whatever pittance we owe her, and get her out of my sight." Obioma's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not in front of these people who already looked at her like she was invisible. The other employees watched with a mixture of pity and relief that they weren't the ones being humiliated. Young Blessing, one of the junior accountants, looked like she wanted to say something. Her mouth opened, then closed again when Emeka's furious gaze swept across the lobby. Nobody wanted to be the next target of the CEO's legendary temper. "Please, sir," Obioma tried one more time, her voice steadier now despite the tremor in her hands. "This job, it's all I have. My younger siblings, they depend on—" "Not my problem." Emeka pulled out his phone, already moving on to more important matters. "Mrs. Ngozi, why is she still here? Security!" 2 uniformed security guards approached hesitantly. They knew Obioma. She always greeted them warmly, sometimes brought them Chin-Chin, her neighbor maid. But orders were orders, and they needed their jobs too. Mrs. Ngozi stepped forward, placing herself slightly between Obioma and the guards. "Give me 10 minutes, sir. I'll handle everything properly." Something in her tone made Emeka pause. She wasn't asking permission, she was telling him. It was the first time anyone had spoken to him that way in years. Emeka's jaw clenched, but he waved a dismissive hand. 10 minutes, then I want her gone. He turned on his Italian leather heel and strode toward the executive elevator, his phone already pressed to his ear. Yes, Minister, my apologies for that interruption. As I was saying about the infrastructure contract. The lobby slowly returned to life as the CEO disappeared. Whispers rippled through the employees. Someone dropped a pen, and the sound seemed abnormally loud in the aftermath of the confrontation. Mrs. Ngozi touched Obioma's elbow gently. Come with me, dear. Bring your things. Obioma grabbed her mop and bucket with shaking hands, following the older woman toward the HR office. Behind her, she heard the whispers growing louder. Poor thing, she didn't deserve that. The CEO is so harsh, it's not right. But what can we do? He owns this company. In the HR office, a small space cluttered with filing cabinets and motivational posters, Mrs. Ngozi closed the door firmly. The Venetian blinds were already drawn. She gestured for Obioma to sit in one of the plastic chairs facing her desk, then moved to her computer with purpose. I am so sorry you had to endure that, Mrs. Ngozi said, her voice low and urgent. That man has no shame. But before I process your termination, there's something I need to check. Something that's been bothering me since I processed your paperwork 3 years ago. Obioma wiped her face with the back of her hand, confused. Ma? Mrs. Ngozi's fingers flew across her keyboard, clicking through files and folders. When you were hired, there was an unusual document in your employee file. I remember because it was flagged with a special code I'd never seen before. I was told not to worry about it, that it was being handled by the legal department. But now, she pulled out a thick manila folder from a locked drawer, one that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Dust motes danced in the air as she opened it, revealing yellowed papers covered in legal jargon and official stamps. Do you remember signing anything besides your employment contract when you started working here? Mrs. Ngozi asked, her voice barely above a whisper now, as if afraid someone might be listening. Obioma thought back to that day 3 years ago. She'd been so grateful to get any job, so desperate after her father's death left her responsible for 3 younger siblings. There were many papers, Ma. The lady, she's not here anymore. She said it was all standard. I just signed where she pointed. Mrs. Ngozi pulled out a specific document, and her hand trembled slightly as she held it up to the light. Her eyes widened, and all the color drained from her face. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, oh my God. Ma, what is it? Obioma leaned forward, trying to see what had shocked the normally unflappable HR director. Mrs. Ngozi turned the document around slowly, her voice shaking. Obioma, do you know a man named Chief Ikenna Nwosu? The name hit Obioma like a physical blow. Her breath caught in her throat. That was my father's best friend, Uncle Ikenna. He died 6 months before I started working here. A car accident. Why? What does he have to do with... Chief Ikenna Nwosu was one of the founding investors of Zenith Holdings, Mrs. Ngozi interrupted, her words tumbling out faster now. And according to this document, which appears to be his last will and testament, notarized and legally binding, he left you something. The air in the small office felt impossibly thick. Obioma couldn't breathe properly. Her father's friend, the kind man who used to give her money for school books, who promised he'd always look after her family if anything happened to her father. Left me what? Obioma whispered. Mrs. Ngozi's hands shook as she pointed to a specific line in the document. When she spoke, her voice cracked with disbelief. Obioma Nwankwo, the man who just fired you, the CEO who humiliated you in front of everyone. He doesn't actually own this company. At least, not all of it. I don't understand. Chief Ikenna left you his entire share portfolio in Zenith Holdings. Mrs. Ngozi looked up, and her eyes were filled with something between horror and awe. According to this document and the current market valuation, you own $500 million worth of shares in this company. Obioma, you're not just an employee here. The room tilted. Obioma gripped the edges of her chair, her knuckles turning white. Mrs. Ngozi leaned forward, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. You're the majority shareholder. Which means the man who just fired you, he actually works for you. What do you think happens when Emeka discovers the truth? Will Obioma forgive him, or will there be consequences for his cruelty? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for next chapter. You won't want to miss what happens next. The silence in the HR office stretched like pulled taffy, thick and suffocating. Obioma stared at Mrs. Ngozi, then at the document, then back at Mrs. Ngozi, her mouth opening and closing without sound. The words $500 million echoed in her head like a broken record, meaningless and impossible. "Ma, I think you made a mistake," Obioma finally whispered, her voice hoarse. "That cannot be right. Uncle Ikenna was kind to my family, yes, but he would never— I clean toilets." Mrs. Ngozi shook her head firmly, her gel wobbling with the movement. She spread several documents across her cluttered desk, official papers with raised seals, signatures, and stamps that looked far too legitimate to be mistakes. "I thought the same thing, which is why I'm checking everything twice. But look here," she pointed to a line halfway down the page. "This is Chief Ikenna's signature. I've seen it on company documents before. And here," she pulled up something on her computer screen. "This is the shareholding structure of Zenith Holdings as registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission." Obioma leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The fluorescent light made her head pound. She could barely read the small text, but she recognized one name repeated several times: Nwankwo Obioma E. "The shares were transferred into your name 3 years ago," Mrs. Ngozi continued, scrolling through what looked like financial records. "Right around the time you were hired. The legal department handled everything quietly, too quietly." Her expression darkened. "I'm beginning to think someone knew about this and deliberately kept you in the dark, someone who benefits from you not knowing your own worth." A knock on the door made them both jump. Mrs. Ngozi quickly minimized the screen and shoved the documents back into the folder. "Come in," she called, her voice steady despite the panic in her eyes. One of the security guards poked his head in. Tunde, the younger one who always smiled at Obioma when she arrived before dawn. Now his face was apologetic. "Sorry, Ma. Mr. Emeka is asking why the cleaner is still in the building. He said if she's not gone in 5 minutes, I should escort her out personally." Mrs. Ngozi's jaw tightened. She stood up, smoothing down her Ankara dress with deliberate calm. "Tell Mr. Emeka that I am handling employee termination according to proper legal procedures, as is my job. If he has concerns about how I run my department, he can schedule a meeting with me, through my secretary, like everyone else." Tunde's eyes widened slightly. Nobody spoke to the CEO like that. "Yes, Ma," he said quickly, and disappeared. When the door closed, Mrs. Ngozi turned to Obioma with fierce determination. "Listen to me carefully. You cannot leave this building today. If you do, if you walk out of here without understanding what you have, they will find a way to take it from you. Legal loopholes, forged documents. Intimidation, I've seen it happen before in this company." "They? Who is they?" Obioma's heart raced. This felt like a Nollywood movie, too dramatic to be real life. "I don't know yet, but someone has been hiding your ownership for 3 years." Mrs. Ngozi pulled out her phone. "I need to make some calls, quietly. We need a lawyer, a good one, not one of the corporate sharks Emeka keeps on retainer. And we need to verify these documents with the CAC and the Securities and Exchange Commission. But Ma, I don't have money for lawyers, and if Mr. Emeka wants me gone—" "Obioma," Mrs. Ngozi gripped her shoulders, looking her directly in the eyes. "You own this company, more of it than anyone else. Those shares are worth more than every employee's annual salary combined. You could buy 10 law firms if you wanted, but first, we need to make sure this is real and protected." A phone rang, Mrs. Ngozi's desk line. They both stared at it like it was a snake. It rang twice, 3 times, 4 times before Mrs. Ngozi finally picked it up. "Human Resources, Mrs. Akwensi speaking." Her voice was professional, detached. Whatever the person on the other end said made her face harden. "I understand, sir. However, there are legal procedures that must be followed when terminating any employee, even cleaners. The Labor Act is very clear about this. I will not expose this company to a wrongful termination lawsuit simply because you're impatient." She paused, listening. "Yes, sir. I'm aware you're the CEO. I'm also aware that my job is to protect this company from legal liability, which is what I'm doing. Good day, sir." She hung up. Her hand trembled slightly as she pulled it away from the receiver. "That was bold, Ma," Obioma said softly. "That was necessary." Mrs. Ngozi sat back down heavily in her chair. "That man thinks he's untouchable. He's been running this company like his personal kingdom for 5 years, making decisions without consulting the board, awarding contracts to his friends, spending company money like water. The board members are too scared or too comfortable to challenge him." "Why are you helping me?" Obioma asked suddenly. "You don't know me. This could cost you your job." Mrs. Ngozi was quiet for a long moment, staring at the framed photo on her desk, a younger version of herself with a teenage girl in school uniform. My daughter died 7 years ago, lupus. We couldn't afford the treatment, even with my salary here. By the time we raised enough money through family contributions and church donations, it was too late. Her voice cracked. I watched my child die because we didn't have what the rich take for granted. So when I see a man like Emeka Okonkwo humiliate a hardworking girl in public, treat her like she's nothing because she's poor, something in me says not this time. Tears streamed down Obioma's face now, unchecked. I'm sorry about your daughter, Ma. Don't be sorry. Be strong. Mrs. Ngozi wiped her own eyes quickly, then straightened her shoulders. Now I'm going to call my cousin Dubem. He's a corporate lawyer in Ikoyi, honest, which is rare. While I do that, you need to think carefully about something. What? Once we verify this and make it public, your life will change forever. The people who've been hiding this will fight back. Emeka will be furious. This company will be in chaos. Are you ready for that? Because we can still walk away right now, take your termination pay, and you can go back to your life. Obioma thought about her life. The small room she shared with her 3 siblings in Mushin, her 14-year-old brother Obina, who'd had to drop out of school to sell sachet water in traffic because they couldn't afford the fees. Her twin sisters, Ngozi and Nkechi, 16 years old and already talking about becoming housemaids because they saw no other future. The way she went to bed hungry some nights so they could eat. She thought about Uncle Ikenna, the last time she saw him alive. He'd come to their house after her father's funeral, pressed money into her hand. Your father was like a brother to me, he'd said, his eyes kind and sad. I will make sure you and your siblings are taken care of, I promise. She'd thought he meant small things, maybe help with school fees occasionally, perhaps a job reference. She'd never imagined this. I'm ready, Obioma said, and her voice didn't shake. Whatever happens, I'm ready. Mrs. Ngozi nodded, already dialing. The phone rang twice before a male voice answered. Dubem? It's your cousin Ngozi. I need you to come to Zenith Holdings immediately. No, I can't explain over the phone. Just trust me. This is the biggest case you'll ever handle. She paused, listening. Yes, bigger than the one with the oil minister. Much bigger. How fast can you get here? While Mrs. Ngozi talked in rapid Igbo, Obioma's mind raced. She looked down at her worn uniform, her cracked leather slippers that she'd repaired with superglue 3 times. $500 million. The number was so large it lost meaning. What did someone even do with that much money? Another knock on the door. This time, Mrs. Ngozi didn't bother minimizing the screen. Come in. It was Blessing, the junior accountant who'd looked sympathetic earlier. She slipped inside quickly, glancing over her shoulder before closing the door. She was young, maybe 25, with her hair in neat cornrows and a nervous energy that made her seem like a startled bird. Ma, I'm sorry to disturb, but I had to tell you something. Blessing's voice was urgent, hushed. I was in the executive kitchen getting coffee when I heard Mr. Emeka on the phone with Mr. Rotimi from legal. They were talking about making sure the cleaner situation doesn't become a problem. She looked at Obioma, her eyes filled with concern. Mr. Emeka told him to prepare papers that would clean up any loose ends from the Nwosu estate. He said the words, "We can't let her find out," and destroy any evidence. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mrs. Ngozi's face went from shocked to furious in seconds. That snake! He knows. He's known all along. She grabbed the folder and shoved it into her handbag. Blessing, I need you to do something for me, and it might be dangerous. Anything, Ma. Go to the legal department filing room. There's usually nobody there on Friday mornings. Find anything related to Chief Ikenna Nwosu's estate or Obioma Nwankwo. Take pictures with your phone, but be careful. If anyone asks what you're doing, I'm looking for employment verification files for audit purposes. Blessing finished smoothly. I've done it before, Mr. Rotimi is in a meeting until 11. I saw it on his calendar. Good girl. Mrs. Ngozi pressed money into her hand. If you get into trouble, call me immediately. And Blessing? After this is over, if things go the way I think they will, you'll be rewarded for your courage. Blessing nodded and slipped out as quietly as she'd entered. Obioma felt like she was watching a thriller movie instead of living her own life. Ma, this is too much. Maybe I should just what? Give up? Let them steal what's rightfully yours? Mrs. Ngozi shook her head firmly. No, your Uncle Ikenna wanted you to have those shares. He put them in your name legally. Whatever happens now, we fight for what's right. The office door burst open without warning. No knock this time. Emeka Okonkwo stood in the doorway, his face twisted with rage. Behind him were two security guards and a man Obioma didn't recognize, thin, wearing an expensive suit, carrying a leather briefcase. The lawyer, she guessed. "Mrs. Ngozi, I've tolerated your insubordination long enough." Emeka's voice was ice-cold, more frightening than his earlier shouting. "Mr. Rotimi here will handle the termination paperwork since you seem incapable of following simple instructions. As for you," he pointed at Obioma without looking at her, "you have exactly 30 seconds to leave this building, or I will have you arrested for trespassing." Mrs. Ngozi stood up slowly, drawing herself to her full height. Something in her expression made even Emeka pause. She looked like a woman who'd just drawn a line in the sand and dared someone to cross it. "Mr. Okonkwo, before you do something you'll regret, I suggest you have Mr. Rotimi here check the company's shareholding records, specifically the shares previously owned by Chief Ikenna Nwosu." Emeka's eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you just publicly humiliated and illegally fired the majority shareholder of this company." The silence that followed was deafening. Emeka's face went through several emotions: confusion, disbelief, fear, and finally fury. Mr. Rotimi's briefcase slipped from his hand, hitting the floor with a loud thunk. That's not possible," Mr. Rotimi stammered, his face pale. "Those shares were supposed to be, we were told—" "Told what?" Mrs. Ngozi demanded. "That she would never find out? That a poor cleaner would never question why she was given a job at this prestigious company? That you could just hide her inheritance and hope she remained ignorant forever?" Emeka's jaw clenched so hard Obioma could see the muscles jumping. "You have no idea what you're interfering with, Mrs. Ekwensi. No idea who you're dealing with." "Then enlighten me," Mrs. Ngozi shot back. "Tell me exactly what conspiracy you and your legal department have been running for the past 3 years." The security guards looked increasingly uncomfortable, clearly wishing they were anywhere else. The entire company would know about this confrontation within minutes. Gossip spread faster than fire in the Lagos corporate world. Emeka pulled out his phone. "We'll see what the board has to say about this wild accusation. And Mrs. Ekwensi, start packing your things. You're finished here." He stormed out, Mr. Rotimi scrambling after him like a frightened puppy. The security guards remained, unsure of what to do. Mrs. Ngozi looked at Obioma, and despite the gravity of the situation, she smiled. "Well, my dear, I think we just started a war." Obioma's phone, an ancient Nokia with a cracked screen, buzzed in her pocket. A text from her brother Obinna. "Sister, I'm hungry. When will you send money for food?" $500 million. And her brother was hungry. The absurdity of it made her want to laugh and cry simultaneously. "What do we do now?" Obioma asked. Mrs. Ngozi picked up her phone again. "Now? We call the board members before Emeka can spin this his way. We contact the media. We make so much noise that he can't silence us." She paused, her expression softening. "And then, Miss Obioma Nwankwo, majority shareholder of Zenith Holdings. We teach that arrogant man a lesson he'll never forget." The boardroom of Zenith Holdings occupied the entire top floor of the 40-story building, with panoramic views of Lagos Island stretching from the harbor to the distant mainland. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the chaotic beauty of the city: gridlocked traffic, street hawkers weaving between cars, the glittering waters of the lagoon beyond. Inside, the room was all polished mahogany, leather chairs, and the subtle hum of central air conditioning that kept the Lagos heat at bay. Obioma had never been this high in the building before. Her cleaning duties never took her past the 20th floor. Now she sat in one of those expensive leather chairs, her threadbare uniform a stark contrast to the luxury surrounding her. Her hands gripped the armrests so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Around the enormous conference table sat 7 board members, men and women in their 50s and 60s, dressed in power suits and traditional attire that cost more than everything Obioma owned combined. They stared at her with expressions ranging from confusion to poorly concealed hostility. Mrs. Ngozi sat beside her like a protective lioness, and on her other side was Dubem Okafor, the lawyer Mrs. Ngozi had called. He was a tall, lean man in his 40s, with salt-and-pepper hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His briefcase lay open on the table, filled with documents that proved Obioma's claim. At the head of the table, Emeka Okonkwo looked like a man barely containing a volcanic eruption. His expensive suit couldn't hide the rigid tension in his shoulders, and a muscle twitched in his jaw. Beside him sat Mr. Rotimi, the company lawyer, who kept dabbing his forehead with a handkerchief despite the cool air. "This is absolutely ridiculous," declared Mrs. Folashade Bello, the board's vice chairwoman. She was an imposing woman in a green silk blouse and gold jewelry that probably cost more than a luxury car. "We're supposed to believe that our cleaner, a woman who mops our floors, owns the largest share portfolio in this company? Do you hear how insane that sounds?" "Insane or not, the documents are legitimate," Dubem replied calmly, sliding copies of Chief Ikenna's will across the table. Chief Ikenna Nwosu's last will and testament, properly notarized and filed with the probate registry. The share transfer documents, stamped by the Corporate Affairs Commission. Bank statements showing the dividend payments that have been accumulating in an account Miss Nwankwo didn't even know existed. He paused, letting that sink in. Dividend payments that total approximately 12 million naira over the past 3 years. Obioma's head snapped toward him. 12 million? 12 million naira, Dubem confirmed, sitting in a bank account that was opened in your name but with all correspondence directed to this company's legal department. Care to explain that, Mr. Rotimi? The company lawyer looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. The account was set up for administrative convenience. We were going to inform Miss Nwankwo once. Once what? Mrs. Ngozi cut in sharply. Once she died and you could claim the funds eschewed to the state? Once you figured out how to steal it legally? How dare you! Amika slammed his palm on the table, making everyone jump. "This is my company. I built Zenith Holdings into what it is today. I worked day and night while that old fool Ikenna sat back collecting dividends. When he died, those shares should have reverted to the company, not been given to some random girl who happened to know him." "Random girl?" Obioma found her voice surprising herself with its steadiness. "Uncle Ikenna was my father's best friend. He was at my naming ceremony. He paid for my primary school education when my father couldn't afford it. He was family. He was a sentimental old man who made a stupid decision," Amika shot back. "You think you can just walk in here and claim ownership?" "You don't know the first thing about running a company." "Neither did you when you started," said Mr. Gbadebo Olumaide, the oldest board member. He was a distinguished man with completely white hair and traditional beads around his wrist. He'd been silent until now, but his voice carried weight. "Chief Ikenna brought you into this company as a junior analyst 15 years ago, Amika. He mentored you, promoted you, made you CEO when others questioned whether you were ready. And this is how you honor his memory? By trying to steal his final gift to someone he loved?" Amika's face flushed darker. "I'm not stealing anything. I'm protecting this company from a farce. She can't even read financial statements." "Then she'll learn," Mr. Gbadebo said quietly. "As you did. As we all did." "This is madness," Mrs. Folashade interjected again. "Even if, and I'm saying if, these documents are legitimate, we can't seriously be considering allowing a cleaner to have any say in corporate decisions. The shareholders will panic. Our stock price will crash. Clients will pull their accounts. We'll be the laughingstock of Lagos." "Better a laughingstock than criminals," Dubem said coldly, "because if we find evidence that anyone in this room knowingly concealed Miss Nwankwo's ownership and misappropriated her dividend payments, I will personally ensure the SEC and EFCC investigate every single one of you. And trust me, once the Anti-Corruption Commission starts digging, they always find something interesting." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission was not an entity anyone wanted investigating them. "You would destroy this entire company to defend a cleaner?" Mrs. Folashade asked incredulously. "I would uphold the law," Dubem replied. "Novel concept, I know." Mr. Rotimi cleared his throat weakly. "Perhaps we could reach a settlement. Miss Nwankwo could be compensated for any oversights, and we could arrange for her shares to be purchased at fair market value. Everyone walks away happy. No scandal, no investigations." "In other words, pay her off and make her go away," Mrs. Ngozi said flatly. "How much were you thinking? 5 million? 10? That's nothing compared to what she actually owns. You'd be stealing hundreds of millions from her and calling it generosity." "It would be more money than she's ever seen," Mr. Rotimi protested. "She could live comfortably for the rest of her life." "Or," Dubem countered, "she could claim what's legally hers and live as the majority shareholder she actually is. Miss Nwankwo, the decision is yours. They're offering you what amounts to pocket change to walk away and let them continue as if nothing happened. What do you want to do?" All eyes turned to Obioma. She could feel the weight of their stares, some hopeful, some hostile, most just calculating what her decision would mean for them. Her heart hammered so loudly she was sure they could hear it. She thought about her siblings again, about the neighbor's daughter who'd been forced into prostitution to escape poverty, about the young boy who died last month in their compound because his parents couldn't afford hospital bills, about every person she'd ever known who'd been crushed under the wheel of a system designed to keep the poor poor and the rich rich. Uncle Ikenna had given her a weapon, not money, power, the power to change things, to make different choices than the Emekas of the world made. "I want what's mine," Obioma said clearly. "All of it." Emeka laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You foolish girl. You have no idea what you're doing. Running a company isn't about signing papers and collecting money. It's about strategy, relationships, knowing who to trust and who to destroy. You'll fail within a month, and when you do, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. Then I'll have learned something, won't I?" Obioma met his eyes steadily. "But I'd rather fail trying than succeed at doing nothing." "This is a disaster," Mrs. Folashade muttered, but there was resignation in her voice now. "Fine, if the documents are legitimate and I want independent verification, not just this lawyer's word, then legally, Miss Nwankwo has the controlling share. But don't expect me to applaud this circus." "Verification is already underway," Dubem said. "I've sent copies to 3 separate law firms and the CAC. We should have confirmation by Monday morning." "Monday?" Emeka's voice rose. "You want us to wait until Monday to resolve this? We have the Singapore deal closing next week. The minister is waiting for our proposal on the Abuja contract. I have meetings with—" "Then you'd better hope Miss Nwankwo approves of your decisions," Mr. Gbadebo interrupted. "Because as of this moment, Emeka, you work for her." The silence that followed was profound. Emeka looked like he'd been slapped. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Obioma felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. Yesterday, her biggest concern had been whether she could afford to buy rice and beans for dinner. Today, she apparently employed one of the most powerful CEOs in Lagos. "I need to use the bathroom," she whispered to Mrs. Ngozi. "I'll come with you," Mrs. Ngozi said immediately, standing up. "She doesn't need an escort to the toilet," Emeka sneered. "Or does the new majority shareholder not know where the bathroom is in her own company?" "Actually," Obioma said, surprising herself again, "I do know. I cleaned them all for 3 years, including the executive bathroom on this floor that you use, Mr. Emeka, the one where you leave the seat up and somehow always manage to splash water everywhere. I know every bathroom in this building, every office, every corner." She stood up, her legs shaky but holding. "I know this company in ways you never will. I know which security guard sends money to his sick mother every month. I know which secretary cries in the stairwell because her boss harasses her. I know which executives work late because they care and which ones just want to be seen. So maybe I don't know about Singapore deals or minister proposals, but I know the people who make this company actually run, and that's worth something too." She walked out of the boardroom before anyone could respond, Mrs. Ngozi following close behind. In the bathroom, the same executive bathroom she'd cleaned countless times, Obioma gripped the marble sink and stared at her reflection. The same tired face, the same worried eyes, but something had shifted. She'd spoken to the board of directors. She'd stood up to Emeka Okonkwo. She'd claimed her inheritance. And she hadn't apologized once. "You did well in there," Mrs. Ngozi said softly. "Chief Ikenna would be proud." "Ma, I'm terrified," Obioma admitted. "What if they're right? What if I can't do this?" "Then you'll learn. But I don't think they're right," Mrs. Ngozi smiled. "You've been surviving impossible situations your whole life. Running a company? That's just a different kind of impossible." A toilet flushed in one of the stalls, and both women froze. They'd thought they were alone. The stall door opened, and out stepped a young woman in an expensive pantsuit, one of the junior executives Obioma recognized but didn't know by name. The woman washed her hands silently, but her eyes kept flicking to Obioma in the mirror. Finally, she spoke. "Is it true? You really own the company?" Obioma nodded slowly. The woman dried her hands, then turned to face them directly. "Good. Emeka Okonkwo is a monster. He sexually harassed my friend until she quit. He fires people for sport. He awards contracts to companies his relatives own and pockets kickbacks. Everyone knows, but everyone's too scared to say anything because he controls everything." She paused. "Or he did. Maybe things can be different now." She left before Obioma could respond. Mrs. Ngozi raised her eyebrows. "Well, it seems you have allies you didn't know about." They returned to the boardroom to find chaos. Voices were raised, people were standing, and Emeka was on his phone speaking rapid, angry Yoruba. When he saw Obioma enter, he pointed at her like she was something foul. Do you know what you've done? The business news blogs already have the story. Cleaner claims majority ownership of Zenith Holdings. It's trending on Twitter. Our stock price is dropping. Clients are calling asking what's happening. You stupid girl, you've destroyed everything. I didn't tell anyone, Obioma protested. I've been with you this whole time. Someone did. Amika's face was purple with rage. And now the whole city knows, the whole country. We're a joke. Blessing burst into the room, breathless, holding her phone. Sir, it's worse than that. The story includes details about Chief Ikenna's will, the hidden dividend account, all of it. Whoever leaked this had access to confidential documents. All eyes turned to Mr. Rotimi, who'd gone pale as paper. It wasn't me, he stammered. I would never. But you knew, Mr. Gbadebo said quietly. You've known for 3 years that Chief Ikenna left his shares to Miss Nwankwo. You set up the account. You redirected her mail. You were complicit in hiding her inheritance. He stood up, his expression grave. That's fraud, Rotimi. Criminal fraud. I was following orders. Mr. Rotimi looked desperately at Amika. You said to keep it quiet. You said we'd handle it internally. I was just— Shut up, Amika roared. Don't say another word. But it was too late. The admission hung in the air, damning. Dubem was already typing on his phone, recording notes. Mr. Rotimi, I strongly suggest you retain your own legal counsel, because right now you're confessing to crimes that carry prison time. The company lawyer's legs seemed to give out. He sank into his chair, head in his hands. This meeting is over, Amika declared, grabbing his jacket. Emergency board meeting Monday morning. We'll resolve this properly then. Until that time, Miss Nwankwo, I suggest you enjoy your 15 minutes of fame, because when the dust settles, you'll wish you'd taken the settlement. He stormed out, and several board members followed, some shooting sympathetic glances at Obioma, others looking disgusted. Only Mr. Gbadebo remained, along with one other board member, Mrs. Yetunde Okafor, a quiet woman who'd said nothing during the entire meeting. She approached Obioma now, her expression thoughtful. Miss Nwankwo, I knew Chief Ikenna well. We worked together for 20 years. Her voice was gentle, cultured. He was a man who believed in justice and fairness. He saw potential in people others overlooked. If he chose you to inherit his legacy, he had good reasons. She paused. But he also would want you to be careful. Powerful men like Amika don't surrender power easily. Watch your back, child, and trust very few people. She left, her high heels clicking against the marble floor. Mr. Gbadebo nodded in agreement. She's right. This is just the beginning. Amika will fight with everything he has. He looked at Obioma with something like respect. But I suspect you're stronger than you look. Chief Ikenna always was a good judge of character. When the boardroom finally emptied, leaving just Obioma, Mrs. Ngozi, and Dubem, the weight of what had just happened crashed over Obioma like a wave. Her legs went weak, and she sat down heavily. My life is over, she whispered. Everyone will know. Everyone will judge. My siblings, my neighbors, everyone I've ever known will think I don't even know what they'll think. They'll think you're brave, Mrs. Ngozi said firmly, and they'd be right. Obioma's phone buzzed incessantly. Dozens of texts, mostly from numbers she didn't recognize. Her siblings had called 5 times. Her landlord had sent a message. Is the story about you true? We need to talk about your rent. Even people she'd gone to primary school with, people she hadn't spoken to in years, were suddenly messaging. Is it really you? Can you help me? I need money for— The requests went on and on. Turn off your phone, Dubem advised, and don't go home tonight. Emeka knows where you live and he's desperate. Stay somewhere safe, a hotel, a friend's house, anywhere he can't predict. I can't abandon my siblings, Obioma protested. They need me. Obina is only 14. Then bring them with you, Mrs. Ngozi said. I have a 3-bedroom flat in Lekki. My daughter's room has been empty for 7 years. You and your siblings can stay there until this settles down. Ma, I can't impose. You're not imposing. I'm offering. Mrs. Ngozi's voice was firm. Besides, if you're going to be a corporate powerhouse, you'll need allies. Consider this lesson 1. Accept help when it's genuinely offered. Obioma felt tears threatening again. Why are you all being so kind to me? Because you remind us of what we used to believe in, Mr. Gbadebo said from the doorway. They'd thought he'd left, but he stood there, his weathered face thoughtful. Before we got comfortable, before we forgot what it was like to struggle, Chief Ikenna never forgot. He came from nothing, built something extraordinary, and tried to give back. You represent his final act of faith in human potential. Don't waste it. He left for real this time. Obioma looked at the two people who'd become her unlikely champions. What happens now? Dubem closed his briefcase. Now? We prepare for war, because Emeka Okonkwo is not going to let you take his kingdom without a fight. And trust me, Miss Nwankwo, he fights dirty. The battle is heating up. Will Emeka destroy Obioma before she can claim her inheritance? What would you do if powerful people were plotting against you? Drop your predictions in the comments. If you're loving this story, smash that like button and subscribe. Next chapter is going to blow your mind. Don't miss it. The weekend passed like a fever dream. Obioma barely slept, jolting awake every few hours in Mrs. Ngozi's comfortable guest room, half convinced the past 2 days had been an elaborate hallucination. But each time she checked her phone, now under a new number Dubem had arranged, the reality crashed back. News websites carried her story. Blog posts analyzed her situation. Social media exploded with opinions about the cleaner who became a billionaire overnight. Some called her inspiring, others called her a fraud. Many questioned whether someone uneducated should control a major corporation. The classism was blatant and exhausting. Her siblings had taken to their new temporary home with wide-eyed wonder. Obina kept touching the leather sofa like he couldn't believe it was real. The twins, Ngozi and Nkechi, had cried when they saw the bathroom with its functioning shower and consistent water pressure, such a stark contrast to the single bucket bath they shared in Mushin. "Sister, are we rich now?" Obina had asked Saturday night, his 14-year-old face struggling between hope and disbelief. "I don't know what we are," Obioma had answered honestly, "but things are going to change, I promise you that." Now it was Monday morning, and Obioma stood outside Zenith Holdings wearing clothes that actually fit. Mrs. Ngozi had taken her shopping Sunday afternoon. "If you're going to face those vultures, you need armor," she declared, and now Obioma wore a simple but elegant navy blue dress, modest heels that didn't hurt her feet, and her hair freshly braided in neat cornrows. She looked like she belonged. She felt like an imposter. "Ready?" Dubem asked beside her. He carried a briefcase full of verified documents. Everything had checked out. Chief Ikenna's will was legitimate. The share transfer was legal. The dividend account was real. Obioma Nwankwo owned 52% of Zenith Holdings, making her the undisputed majority shareholder. "No," Obioma admitted, "but let's go anyway." The lobby fell silent when they entered. Every employee stopped mid-stride, mid-conversation, mid-keystroke. They stared at Obioma like she was a ghost, or a celebrity, or something they couldn't quite categorize. The cleaner who'd mopped these floors on Friday morning now walked through them as their boss. Tunde, the security guard, broke the silence. "Good morning, Ma," he said respectfully, opening the elevator for her. "Good morning, Tunde," Obioma replied, and his face split into a genuine smile. The elevator ride to the top floor felt eternal. Mrs. Ngozi had stayed behind to handle something with HR. Administrative cleanup, she'd called it mysteriously. So it was just Obioma and Dubem rising toward a confrontation that would determine her entire future. "Remember what we discussed," Dubem said quietly. "You don't have to make any big decisions today. Your job is simply to establish your presence and authority. Let them know you're not going anywhere." The elevator doors opened to reveal Executive Row, a corridor of glass-walled offices occupied by the company's top leadership. Every office had a view. Every desk was mahogany. Every chair was ergonomic and expensive. Emeka's office sat at the end of the hall, double doors that probably cost more than a car. His secretary, a perfectly groomed woman named Kelechi, looked up from her desk with barely concealed hostility. "Mr. Okonkwo is not seeing anyone this morning," she said coldly before Obioma could speak. "That's unfortunate," Dubem replied pleasantly, "because Miss Nwankwo, as majority shareholder, doesn't need an appointment. Company bylaws are quite clear on that." Kelechi's perfectly painted lips thinned. "I'll check if he's available." "Don't bother." Dubem walked past her desk and opened Emeka's office doors. The CEO sat behind his massive desk, on the phone, his back to them as he gazed out at the Lagos skyline. "Don't care what the bloggers are saying. Get me the Shanghai investors on the line. If they're getting cold feet about the partnership, remind them we've never missed projections. This cleaner nonsense will blow over by—" He turned and saw them. His expression went from surprise to fury in a heartbeat. "I'll call you back," he said curtly, and ended the call. "You can't just barge into my office." "Actually, she can," Dubem said. "Majority shareholder privileges. But if you prefer, we can have this conversation in the boardroom with everyone present. Your choice." Emeka's jaw clenched. For a long moment, he seemed to be weighing his options. Then he gestured sharply at the chairs facing his desk. "Sit." Obioma sat, trying not to show how intimidated she felt. This office alone was larger than the entire room her family shared in Mushin. The art on the walls probably cost more than her entire neighborhood earned in a year. "Let me be very clear about something," Emeka began, his voice low and dangerous. "I have spent 15 years building this company, 15 years of 18-hour days, of sacrificing my personal life, of making the hard decisions that keep 300 employees paid and fed. Chief Ikenna was a visionary, yes, but I made his vision reality. Me, not some random girl he felt sentimental about." "She's not random," Dubem interjected. "She's family. She's a cleaner." Emeka slammed his palm on the desk. "She has no education, no training, no understanding of how corporations function. You want to put her in charge? She'll destroy everything I've built within months. Clients will leave, investors will panic. We'll be worthless." "Or," Obioma said quietly, finding her voice, "maybe things will just be different." Emeka laughed bitterly. "Different? Listen to yourself. You sound like a child. This is the real world. Not some Nollywood movie where the poor girl becomes rich and everything works out perfectly. In the real world, you're out of your depth and everyone knows it." "Then teach me," Obioma said, the words surprising her as they came out. "You said Chief Ikenna mentored you. You learned. Why can't I?" "Because you're—" Emeka caught himself, but Obioma saw what he'd been about to say written clearly on his face. "Because you're beneath me. Because you're poor. Because people like you don't deserve seats at tables like this." "I'm what?" Obioma pressed. "Say it. Tell me exactly what you think I am." The office door opened, and Mr. Gradebo walked in without knocking. Behind him were 3 other board members, including Mrs. Yetunde. They filed in silently, taking positions around the room like witnesses at a trial. "Don't mind us, Mr. Gradebo said pleasantly. "We just thought this conversation should have proper oversight. Continue, Emeka. You were explaining why Miss Nwankwo is unfit to be majority shareholder." Emeka's face flushed. "This is my private office, and this is company business," Mrs. Yetunde interrupted softly. "When the majority shareholder meets with the CEO, board members have a right to observe. You taught us that yourself, Emeka. Remember? When you wanted to monitor every conversation Chief Ikenna had in his final year, claiming you were protecting company interests?" The accusation hung heavy in the air. Emeka's expression darkened further. "Fine," he bit out. "You want the truth? Here it is. Miss Nwankwo is completely unqualified to hold any position of authority in this company. She lacks education, business experience, and professional credentials. Her sudden elevation to majority shareholder is a threat to our stability, our reputation, and our future. I'm recommending to the board that we offer her a generous buyout, let's say 20 million naira, in exchange for her shares. It's far more than she's ever dreamed of having, and it solves everyone's problems." "Except it's not generous at all," Dubem said. "Her shares are worth approximately 375 million naira at current market valuation. Your offer represents about 5% of their actual value. That's not generosity, Mr. Okonkwo. That's theft." "Market valuation is theoretical," Emeka shot back. "The moment she tries to sell that volume of shares, the price will crash. 20 million is realistic." "Or," Mr. Gradebo suggested, "Miss Nwankwo could simply retain her shares and exercise her rights as majority shareholder, including the right to remove and replace the CEO if she feels current leadership is not acting in the company's best interests." Emeka went very still. "You wouldn't dare." "I'm not proposing anything," Mr. Gradebo said mildly. "I'm simply clarifying what the bylaws allow. Miss Nwankwo, do you understand? As majority shareholder, you have the authority to call for a vote of no confidence in any executive officer, including the CEO. The board would then vote on whether to retain or replace that officer." Obioma's heart raced. The power they were describing felt unreal, impossible. She could fire Emeka Okonkwo, the man who'd humiliated her in front of everyone? "Don't even think about it," Emeka said, his voice like steel. "You fire me, and I'll make sure every client, every investor, every partner knows exactly who they'll be dealing with. A former cleaner with no credentials. They'll run. The company will collapse, and you'll be left with worthless paper and the knowledge that you destroyed 300 jobs out of spite." "Is that a threat?" Dubem asked sharply. "It's a fact." Emeka leaned back in his chair, confidence returning. "I have relationships that took years to build, contacts at the highest levels of government and industry. Without me, Zenith Holdings is nothing. So here's my counterproposal. Miss Nwankwo keeps her shares and her fancy title. She can sit in board meetings and nod along while the adults make decisions. In exchange, I continue running this company the way it needs to be run, and everyone profits. She gets rich, I keep my position, and the company survives. Simple. So she's a figurehead, Mrs. Yetunde said, a token owner with no real power. I'm being pragmatic, Emeka insisted. She can learn the business over time, attend management courses, whatever, but she doesn't interfere with day-to-day operations. That's my condition. Your condition? Obioma spoke up, her voice stronger now. You don't get to make conditions. I own this company. You work for me. Emeka's smile was patronizing. In theory, yes. In practice, you need me far more than I need you. Fire me, and watch what happens to your 375 million naira. It'll evaporate like morning mist. He was right, and everyone in the room knew it. Obioma had no idea how to run a corporation. She couldn't identify their biggest clients. She didn't understand the Shanghai deal or the Singapore partnership or the minister's proposal. She was completely, utterly out of her depth. But she remembered something her father used to say. The tallest tree in the forest started as a seed. It didn't apologize for being small at first. You're right, Obioma said slowly. I don't know how to run this company. Not yet. But I can learn. And while I'm learning, I'll be watching how you treat employees, watching where the money goes, watching who benefits from your decisions and who gets left behind. She stood up, surprising herself with how steady her legs felt. I'm not firing you today, Mr. Emeka, but I'm not staying invisible either. Starting tomorrow, I want an office on this floor. Small is fine, I'm used to small, and I want to attend every executive meeting. Every client presentation, every negotiation. I'll sit in the corner and keep quiet. I'll just watch and learn. That's reasonable, isn't it? Emeka's expression was unreadable. You want to shadow me? I want to understand what I own, Obioma corrected. Is that a problem? The board members exchanged glances. Mr. Gbadebo's lips twitched with what might have been approval. No problem at all, Emeka said finally, but his tone suggested otherwise. I'm happy to educate you. It'll be enlightening for both of us, I'm sure. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. He was going to make her life miserable. He'd show her how incompetent she was, how little she belonged, until she gave up and accepted whatever scraps he offered. Wonderful, Dubem said briskly. We'll have the employment contract drawn up today. Miss Nwankwo will officially be listed as principal shareholder and executive observer. Salary commensurate with her position, of course. Salary? Obioma blinked. I get paid to watch? You get paid because you own the company, Mr. Gbadebo explained. But yes, any official role comes with compensation. We'll sort out the details. For now, let's get you settled. They left Emeka's office, and Obioma felt the weight of his stare burning into her back. She'd won this round, but she had no illusions about what came next. He would fight her at every turn, undermine her, wait for her to fail. Mrs. Yetunde caught up with them in the hallway. That took courage, she said quietly. But be careful. Emeka is already planning his next move. I saw it in his eyes. What kind of move? Obioma asked. Mrs. Yetunde glanced around to make sure they were alone. He has friends in very high places, government ministers, police commissioners, judges. If he can't beat you legally, he'll try other methods. Fabricated scandals, false accusations, maybe even physical intimidation. I've seen him destroy people before. Then we'll be ready, Dubem said firmly. And we'll make sure everything is documented. Every meeting, every decision, every interaction. If he tries anything illegal, we'll have evidence. They reached an empty office 3 doors down from Emeka's, smaller than his by half, but still luxurious by any reasonable standard. The nameplate was missing, as if the room had been waiting for an occupant. This was Chief Ikena's office, Mr. Gbadebo said softly, before his health declined and he worked mostly from home. It seems fitting. Obioma stepped inside. The furniture was covered with dust sheets, but underneath she could see quality pieces. The window overlooked a different part of Lagos. Not the gleaming corporate towers Emeka preferred, but the dense residential neighborhoods spreading toward the mainland. Places like Mushin, where she'd come from, where thousands of people struggled every day just to survive. I'll take it, she said. The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and logistics. Her official employment contract, security clearances, new email addresses and access credentials, a company laptop that probably cost more than she'd earned in her entire life. By afternoon, Obioma sat at Chief Ikena's old desk, now her desk, staring at the computer screen and wondering what she'd gotten herself into. The keyboard felt foreign under her fingers. The financial spreadsheets Blessing had helpfully opened for her might as well have been written in ancient Greek. A knock on her door. She looked up to see a group of employees, maybe 20 of them, clustered in the hallway. They weren't executives or managers. They were the support staff. Secretaries, drivers, IT technicians, janitors, cafeteria workers, people like her. A young man in a maintenance uniform stepped forward nervously. "Ma, sorry to disturb. We just wanted to say thank you for not giving up, for showing us that we matter too." Obioma felt her throat tighten. "I haven't done anything yet." "You're here," a woman from the cafeteria said. "That's already something. We've been invisible for so long. Now maybe things can change." They left gifts on her desk as they filed out, small things that probably cost them significant money. A bag of plantain chips, a handmade bracelet, a card signed by dozens of names, tokens of hope from people who had very little but were willing to share it anyway. When they left, Obioma sat alone in the growing darkness, Lagos's lights beginning to twinkle outside her window. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mrs. Ngozi. "Board meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Emeka is proposing a major new contract with a Chinese investment firm. The board needs to vote. As majority shareholder, you have veto power if you suspect wrongdoing. I've been digging into the deal. Something feels off. Be ready." Obioma stared at the message. Veto power. She could stop Emeka's deals if she thought they were wrong, but how would she even know? She couldn't read the contracts. She didn't understand international finance. She was completely... Her phone buzzed again. This time an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Obioma Nwankwo?" A male voice, unfamiliar, speaking English with a thick Chinese accent. "My name is Wei Chen. I represent the Huaxia Investment Group, the company your CEO is negotiating with. I think we should talk, in private, before tomorrow's board meeting." "About what?" "About what Emeka Okonkwo isn't telling you, about where the money from our deal is really going, about the kickbacks he's promised to certain government officials." A pause. "About the evidence I have that could send him to prison." Obioma's grip on the phone tightened. "Why would you tell me this?" "You're his business partner." "Was his business partner," Wei Chen corrected, "until I learned he planned to cheat my company too. The enemy of my enemy, Miss Nwankwo, is my friend. Meet me tonight, the Radisson Blu Hotel in Victoria Island, room 847. Come alone, tell no one. If Emeka learns you know about this before the board meeting, the evidence will disappear." The line went dead. Obioma sat frozen, her mind racing. This could be a trap. Wei Chen could be working with Emeka, trying to catch her in some compromising situation, or he could be telling the truth. Either way, she had to know. She grabbed her bag and her phone, then hesitated. "Tell no one," Wei Chen had said, but that felt dangerous, stupid even. She texted Dubam the hotel name and room number, meeting someone with information about tomorrow's deal. "If you don't hear from me in 2 hours, send help." She left before he could reply, before she could talk herself out of it. The evening traffic was predictably nightmarish, but eventually her taxi dropped her at the Radisson Blu. The hotel was all marble and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place she'd have been afraid to enter a week ago. Now she walked through the lobby like she belonged there, took the elevator to the 8th floor, and knocked on room 847. Wei Chen was a small, neat man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit and wire-rimmed glasses. He opened the door cautiously, checked the hallway, then ushered her inside quickly. "You came alone?" he asked. "My lawyer knows where I am," Obioma said, not quite a lie. "If this is some kind of trap—" "It's not a trap. Sit, please." He gestured to a chair at the desk, where a laptop was open and documents were spread out. "What I'm about to show you is highly confidential. If you reveal the source, my company will deny everything. Understood?" Obioma nodded, her heart pounding. Wei Chen turned the laptop toward her. On the screen were bank statements, wire transfer records, and what looked like email correspondence. He scrolled through them quickly, translating key phrases. "This contract your CEO is proposing, $50 million for infrastructure development rights in 3 Nigerian states. Sounds legitimate, yes? Except the company listed as the Nigerian partner doesn't actually do infrastructure. It's a shell corporation owned by a government official's nephew. The money flows through them, gets laundered, and comes back to Emeka as consulting fees. He gets 10 million. The minister gets 20. The actual infrastructure never gets built properly. Corners get cut, safety standards ignored. People get hurt, buildings collapse, but the money is already gone." Obioma felt sick. "You have proof of this?" Email correspondence, bank records showing previous similar deals, voice recordings from meetings where Emeka and the minister discussed the arrangement. Wei Chen's expression was grim. My company wants to invest in Africa legitimately. We want long-term partnerships, sustainable development. When we discovered Emeka was using us for corruption, we pulled back. But he's already told your board the deal is approved on our end. Tomorrow, he'll ask them to vote yes, and with his influence, they probably will, unless someone stops him. Why don't you just announce this publicly? Obioma asked. Why tell me? Because Chinese investment in Africa is already controversial. If we accuse a prominent Nigerian CEO of corruption without local support, we look like foreign troublemakers. But if a Nigerian majority shareholder discovers wrongdoing and acts on it, that's justice, not interference. He closed the laptop. I'm giving you the evidence. What you do with it is your choice. He handed her a USB drive. Everything is on here. Encrypted, the password is your birthday, day, month, year format. Review it tonight. Decide if you believe me. If you do, stop the vote tomorrow. If you don't, he shrugged. Then Emeka continues stealing, buildings continue collapsing, and nothing changes. Obioma clutched the USB drive like it was made of fire. If I use this, he'll know someone talked. He'll come after you. Let him try. My company has resources, but you? Wei Chen looked at her seriously. You need to be very careful. Men like Emeka don't accept defeat gracefully, especially not from someone they consider beneath them. Obioma left the hotel in a daze, the USB drive burning a hole in her purse. She barely remembered the taxi ride back to Mrs. Ngozi's apartment. Her siblings were already asleep. Obina sprawled on the sofa, the twins curled together in the guest bed. She opened her laptop, the company one, secure and encrypted, and inserted the USB drive. Entered her birthday. Watched as folders appeared, full of damning evidence. By 3 a.m, she'd read everything, seen the email where Emeka casually discussed bribing officials, heard the recording where he laughed about stupid village people who'd never know their tax money was stolen. Traced the money flowing through shell companies and offshore accounts. He was a thief, a sophisticated, well-dressed, charming thief who stole from an entire nation while looking down on people like her. Tomorrow's board meeting would be interesting indeed. The boardroom felt different at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. The same expensive furniture, the same panoramic windows overlooking Lagos, but the air crackled with tension that made everyone sit a little straighter in their leather chairs. Obioma arrived 15 minutes early wearing another new outfit, a burgundy skirt suit that Mrs. Ngozi had insisted made her look serious and unshakable. The USB drive sat in her purse like a loaded weapon. She'd barely slept, spending the pre-dawn hours reviewing the evidence again and again, making sure she understood what she was seeing. Dubem arrived next, taking the seat beside her. He leaned close and whispered, "You look terrified. That's good. Means you understand the stakes. Did the information from last night check out?" She nodded minutely. She'd sent him encrypted copies of everything at 4 a.m. He'd called back at 6 to confirm, "This is explosive, securities fraud, money laundering, corruption. If you present this correctly, Emeka's finished. But if you fumble it, he'll spin the narrative and bury you." The board members filed in one by one. Mr. Gabadebo offered her an encouraging nod. Mrs. Yatunde looked worried but determined. Mrs. Folashade, who'd been hostile before, wouldn't meet Obioma's eyes. 3 other board members, Mr. Babatunde, Dr. Ogunsanya, and Mrs. Chinyere, took their seats with careful neutrality. Emeka entered last, radiating confidence. He wore a charcoal gray suit that probably cost 500,000 naira, and his smile was bright and empty like polished chrome. Mr. Rotimi, the company lawyer, skulked behind him looking like a man walking to his own execution. "Good morning, everyone," Emeka said warmly, taking his seat at the head of the table. "Thank you for assembling on short notice. I know you're all busy, so let's get straight to business. We have an incredible opportunity that requires immediate action." He clicked a remote, and a presentation appeared on the massive screen behind him. Glossy images of construction projects, infrastructure development, smiling workers in hard hats. The Huaxia Investment Group logo featured prominently. "As you know, we've been negotiating with Huaxia for 6 months on a landmark partnership. $50 million invested in infrastructure development across Ogun, Oyo, and Osun states. Roads, bridges, water treatment facilities, projects that will employ thousands and generate sustainable revenue for Zenith Holdings for years to come." He advanced the slides, showing projected profit margins, employment figures, completion timelines. Everything looked legitimate, professional, airtight. "Huaxia has given us until 5 p.m. today to finalize. If we miss this deadline, they'll partner with Omega Holdings instead. He paused for dramatic effect. Our biggest competitor will get the deal that should be ours, so I'm asking the board to vote yes on this partnership. The contracts are ready, the money is waiting. All we need is approval. Mrs. Folashade spoke up immediately. The numbers look excellent. What's the downside? There is no downside, Amika said smoothly. This is the kind of opportunity that comes once in a decade. Huaxia is a reputable firm, the government is supportive, and our due diligence has been thorough. How thorough? Obioma heard herself ask. Every head turned toward her. Amika's smile didn't waver, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Excuse me? The due diligence, Obioma repeated, her voice steadier now. How thorough was it? Did you verify that the Nigerian partner company actually exists and has infrastructure experience? Of course, Amika said, though his jaw tightened slightly. Everything has been verified by our legal department. Mr. Rotimi, Obioma turned to the sweating lawyer. Can you confirm that? You personally verified the Nigerian partner's credentials? Mr. Rotimi's eyes darted to Amika, then back to Obioma. Yes, we reviewed the documentation provided by... Documentation provided by whom? Obioma pressed. By the partner company itself? Or did you conduct independent verification? The room's temperature seemed to drop. Several board members were frowning now, sensing something beneath the surface. Emeka's smile finally cracked. Miss Nwankwo, I appreciate your newfound interest in corporate procedures, but perhaps we should leave the technical questions to those with experience in... I have a simple question, Obioma interrupted, her heart hammering but her voice clear. Before we approve $50 million, money that belongs to our shareholders, our employees, our future, shouldn't we make absolutely sure this deal is legitimate? Are you suggesting it's not? Amika's tone had gone dangerously soft. I'm suggesting we take our time. You said the deadline is 5 p.m. It's only 10 a.m. We have 7 hours to review everything properly. The contracts are hundreds of pages, Amika snapped. You can't possibly understand them in 7 hours. You can barely understand a basic financial statement. The insult hung in the air. Several board members looked uncomfortable, but no one contradicted him. You're right, Obioma said quietly. I can't understand hundreds of pages of contracts, but I can understand bank statements showing money flowing to offshore accounts. I can understand email correspondence discussing bribes. I can understand voice recordings of you and a government official planning to steal public funds. The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the carpet. Amika's face went through several colors, red, then white, then a mottled purple. What did you just say? Obioma pulled the USB drive from her purse with trembling hands. Last night, someone gave me evidence that this deal isn't about infrastructure at all. It's about laundering money through a shell corporation, paying kickbacks to officials, and cutting corners on actual construction so you can pocket millions. That's a lie, Amika shot to his feet. A complete fabrication. Who told you this? What competitor put you up to this? Does it matter? Mr. Gbadebo said quietly. If the evidence exists, we should review it. There is no evidence, Amika's voice rose. This is a setup. Someone is trying to sabotage this company, and they're using our naive majority shareholder as their weapon. Then you won't mind if we look, Mrs. Yetunde said. She held out her hand to Obioma. May I? Obioma handed over the USB drive. Mrs. Yetunde inserted it into her own laptop, entered the password Obioma whispered to her, and began reviewing the files. Her expression grew darker with each passing minute. Oh my God, she breathed. Emeka, this is really you, your email address, your voice on these recordings. Fake, Emeka insisted. Deepfakes, doctored documents, it's all fabricated. The bank records match our internal accounts, Dr. Ogunsanya said, leaning over to see Mrs. Yetunde's screen. He was the board's financial expert, a former central bank official. These transaction codes are legitimate, and this shell company, Triumph Infrastructure Limited, I can check its CAC registration right now. He pulled out his phone and made a call. The room waited in tense silence while he spoke rapid Yoruba to someone on the other end. When he hung up, his face was grim. Triumph Infrastructure was registered 6 months ago. Single director, Kayode Adeleke, nephew of Minister Adeyemi. The company has no assets, no employees, no office beyond a registered address that turns out to be a cyber cafe in Ikeja. It's a shell, completely empty. That doesn't prove anything, Emeka said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Plenty of new companies start small. The emails are dated, Dubem cut in. He'd moved to look at Mrs. Yetunde's screen. Here's one from 3 weeks ago, where you discuss what percentage of the $50 million will be redistributed. Another where you tell the minister not to worry about the cleaner situation because you'll handle it quietly. That's you admitting you knew about Miss Nwankwo's ownership and actively concealed it. Mrs. Folashade made a sound like she'd been punched. Emeka, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't try to steal from our own shareholder. I built this company, Emeka roared. I made it profitable. I made all of you rich. And you're going to believe some random documents over me, over 15 years of loyal service? I believe documentary evidence over empty protests, Mr. Gbadebo said coldly. Miss Nwankwo, where did you get this information? A whistleblower from Huashia, Obioma said. They pulled out of the deal when they discovered what it really was. They gave me the evidence because they want legitimate business in Nigeria, not corruption. Convenient, Emeka sneered. A mysterious whistleblower who just happens to contact our cleaner-turned-shareholder. You're all being played. The evidence is real, Dr. Ogunsanya said flatly. I've reviewed enough financial crimes in my career to recognize authentic documentation. These bank records are genuine. The shell company is genuine. The only question is whether we report this to EFCC immediately or give Emeka a chance to explain. There's nothing to explain, Emeka grabbed his phone. I'm calling my lawyer. This is a witch hunt and I won't stand for— Sit down, Mr. Gbadebo's voice cracked like a whip. You're still an employee of this company, Emeka. You sit down, and you answer our questions or you leave this building in handcuffs. Your choice. For a moment, Obioma thought Emeka might actually attack Mr. Gbadebo. His whole body was rigid with fury, his hands clenched into fists. But finally, slowly, he sank back into his chair. How much? Mrs. Chinyere asked quietly. She'd been silent until now, a severe woman in her 60s who'd built her own accounting firm before joining Zenith's board. How much were you planning to steal? Emeka said nothing. The emails suggest $10 million for him, Dubem supplied. 20 for the minister, the remaining 20 actually going to substandard construction that will fail within years. Bridges collapsing, roads cracking, water systems contaminating instead of cleaning. People will die from this, Emeka. Also, you could buy more luxury cars and vacation homes. You don't understand how business works in this country, Emeka said finally, his voice bitter. Everyone takes kickbacks. Every deal involves payoffs. That's just how things are done. I'm no different from anyone else. But you are different, Obioma said softly, because you had a choice. Chief Ikenna built this company on honesty. He could have stolen. God knows he had opportunities. But he didn't. He built something real, something good, and you've been destroying it from the inside. Emeka laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. Chief Ikenna was a fool, a sentimental old man who gave away millions to charity while he could have been building an empire. He left his shares to a cleaner, for God's sake. He was weak, and weakness doesn't survive in this world. He survived long enough to build what you're now trying to steal, Mr. Gbadebo said. I think that makes him stronger than you'll ever be. I call for an emergency vote, Mrs. Yetunde said formally. I move that Emeka Okonkwo be immediately removed as CEO pending a full investigation into these allegations. All in favor? Hands went up around the table. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everyone except Mrs. Folashade, who looked torn, and Mr. Rotimi, who looked like he might vomit. Mrs. Folashade? Mr. Gbadebo prompted. She closed her eyes. He made me rich, she whispered. The bonuses, the benefits, the stock options, I've profited enormously under his leadership. She opened her eyes and they were wet. But I have grandchildren. I don't want them growing up in a country where this is normal, where stealing is just how business works. Her hand went up. I vote yes. Mr. Rotimi? The lawyer's hand trembled as it rose. I vote yes, and I formally request immunity in exchange for full cooperation with any investigation. Emeka stared around the table in disbelief. You're all insane. You're destroying this company. Without me? Without you, we have a chance to rebuild with integrity, Mr. Gbadebo said. Security, please escort Mr. Okonkwo from the building. He's to surrender his access cards, company phone, and laptop immediately. He's not to remove any documents or files. 2 security guards entered, not Tunde, but older men who'd been with the company for decades. They approached Emeka hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Don't touch me, Emeka said coldly. He stood, straightening his expensive suit with exaggerated dignity. I'll leave on my own, but mark my words, this company will collapse without me. You've just voted to destroy yourselves. He looked directly at Obioma, and his expression was pure venom. Especially you. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've done. I have friends in places you can't imagine, people who owe me favors. By the end of the week, you'll wish you'd taken my buyout offer and disappeared back to your little room in Mushin. Is that a threat? Dubem asked sharply. It's a promise. Emeka smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Enjoy your victory, Miss Nwankwo. It'll be brief. He walked out, his footsteps echoing down the hall. The security guards followed at a respectful distance. When the doors closed, the remaining board members sat in stunned silence. Finally, Mrs. Chinyere spoke. We need to contain this immediately. Issue a statement to shareholders, contact our major clients, reassure everyone that the company is stable, despite the leadership change. Agreed, Mr. Gbadebo said. And we need an interim CEO, someone the clients trust, someone with experience. He looked around the table. I nominate myself. I'm already semi-retired, so I have time. And I've known most of our major clients for 30 years. They'll accept me. Seconded, Dr. Ogunsanya said. All in favor? Another round of hands. This one was unanimous. Mr. Gbadebo turned to Obioma. Miss Nwankwo, I can't make decisions without your approval. As majority shareholder, you have the final say. Do you trust me to lead this company through the transition? Obioma looked at the elderly man who'd been the first to defend her, the first to take her seriously. Yes, sir, I trust you. Then it's settled. Mr. Gbadebo stood, suddenly energized despite his 70-plus years. Mrs. Yetunde, draft the shareholder statement. Dr. Ogunsanya, start the forensic audit. I want to know every corrupt deal Emeka made. Mrs. Chinyere, contact our legal team about cooperating with EFCC. We're going to clean house, and we're going to do it properly. The board members scattered to their tasks, leaving Obioma and Dubem alone in the boardroom. She felt exhausted, wrung out like she'd run a marathon. But underneath the exhaustion was something else, a small, fierce flame of pride. She'd done it. She'd stopped the theft. She'd stood up to Emeka Okonkwo and won. You were magnificent in there, Dubem said quietly. Chief Ikenna would be proud. I was terrified the entire time. That's what made it courageous. He started packing up his laptop. But Emeka wasn't bluffing. He will come after you. Men like him don't accept defeat gracefully. Let him come, Obioma said, and she meant it. I'm not the same person who cleaned these floors last week. I'm not helpless anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You just made a powerful enemy. Watch your back. Then another. Congratulations on your victory. I knew you had it in you. Wei-chen. And another. This one from her brother Obinna. Sister, people are coming to the flat asking about you. News cameras. Should I talk to them? Obioma's stomach dropped. Of course the media would find them. The story was too good. Poor cleaner defeats corrupt CEO. It would be everywhere by evening. We need to get my siblings somewhere safe, she said urgently. If Emeka knows where they are. Already arranged, Dubem said. Mrs. Ngozi is with them now. They're being moved to a secure location, and there's a security detail watching them. Your brother's message is 2 minutes old, which means they're probably already on their way out. You planned this? Before the meeting? I planned for every possibility. Dubem smiled slightly. That's what lawyers do. Now come on, we need to prepare your statement for the media, because like it or not, you're about to become the most famous woman in Lagos. By evening, Obioma's face was on every news channel. The headlines varied. Cleaner turned shareholder exposes corruption at Zenith Holdings. From mopping floors to boardroom battles. The Obioma Nwankwo story. Young woman inherits fortune. Fires corrupt CEO in dramatic showdown. Some stories praised her courage. Others questioned her qualifications. A few suggested the whole thing was staged for publicity. But everyone was talking. In a hotel suite in Victoria Island, paid for by the company, secured by professional bodyguards, Obioma sat with her siblings and Mrs. Ngozi, watching the coverage with surreal detachment. You're on TV, Nkechi squealed. Sister, you're famous. Famous for what? Obinna asked seriously. He was 14 but sometimes seemed much older. For being born? For cleaning floors? Uncle Ikenna gave you the shares. You didn't earn them. The observation stung because it was partially true. Obioma hadn't built Zenith Holdings. She hadn't earned her position through years of education and hard work. She'd inherited it. Pure luck and Uncle Ikenna's sentiment. You're right, she said quietly. I didn't earn this. But now that I have it, I can choose what to do with it. I can waste it, or I can use it to help people who need help, to change things that need changing. Like what? Ngozi asked. Like, Obioma thought about the cleaning staff, the security guards, the cafeteria workers who'd brought her gifts, about the people in Mushin still struggling, about her father, who died too young from preventable illness. Like making sure people get paid fairly, like funding scholarships so kids like us can afford school. Like holding powerful people accountable when they steal. That sounds hard, Obioma said. It is hard, but someone has to do it. Her phone rang, another unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Miss Nwankwo? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. This is Zainab Musa from TVC News. We'd like to do an exclusive interview with you. Your story is inspiring millions of Nigerians. People need to hear from you directly. I'm not good at interviews. You'll be better than you think. Tomorrow evening, our studio. We'll send a car. Please, Nigeria needs to see that ordinary people can stand up to corruption and win. Obioma looked at Mrs. Ngozi, who nodded encouragingly. Okay, Obioma said. Tomorrow evening. But I want my siblings there with me, and Mrs. Ngozi. They're part of this story too. Of course. We'll make it work. After she hung up, Obioma's phone immediately rang again. And again. And again. More interview requests, congratulations from strangers, distant relatives suddenly remembering they existed. But one call stood out. The caller ID showed a blocked number. When she answered, the voice on the other end was distorted, disguised. Obioma Nwankwo. You should have taken the money and disappeared. Now you're a problem that needs to be solved. Your siblings are in room 1147 of the Echo Hotel. We know where they sleep. We know what they eat for breakfast. Back off, or they pay the price. The line went dead. Obioma's blood turned to ice. They know where we are. Just when Obioma thought she'd won, the real danger begins. Will she back down to protect her siblings, or fight even harder? What would you do if your family was threatened? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe. The final showdown that will leave you speechless. Hit that notification bell. The security detail moved them in the middle of the night. 3 professional bodyguards, 2 men and 1 woman, all former police officers now working private security, hustled Obioma and her siblings into separate black SUVs with tinted windows. No lights, no sirens, just silent efficiency as they disappeared into Lagos's late-night traffic. Mrs. Ngozi rode with Obioma, gripping her hand tightly. Dubem is handling everything. New location, tighter security, police involvement. That phone call was a crime, criminal threatening. They're tracing it now. They won't find anything, Obioma said numbly. She'd seen enough Nollywood movies to know how this worked. Emeka is too smart. He'll have used a burner phone or had someone else make the call, or then we'll find another way to prove it. Mrs. Ngozi's voice was fierce. But right now, your job is to keep your siblings safe and not give up. That's exactly what he wants, for you to be so terrified you surrender. The new safe house was in Lekki Phase 1, a gated community with 24-hour security, high walls, and cameras everywhere. The house itself was modest by Lekki standards, but luxurious by Obioma's experience. 3 bedrooms, air conditioning that actually worked, a kitchen with appliances she'd only seen in magazines. Obina, Ngozi, and Nkechi were asleep within minutes of arriving, exhausted by fear and excitement in equal measure. But Obioma sat awake in the living room, staring at her phone, reading the news coverage that kept updating. Some articles were sympathetic, others were vicious. Unqualified cleaner destroys successful company. Corporate chaos when sentimentality trumps competence. Obioma Nwankwo, courageous hero or dangerous amateur? The comments sections were worse. People who'd never met her, never worked a day in poverty, felt qualified to judge whether she deserved her inheritance. Some called her greedy. Others called her stupid. A few sent death threats so graphic she had to stop reading. Social media is poison, Dubem said, arriving at 3 a.m. with coffee and a briefcase full of documents. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Stop torturing yourself. What matters is what happens next. What does happen next? Obioma asked. I exposed Emeka. The board removed him, and now he's threatening my family. How is this a victory? Because you're still standing. Because the corruption is now public record. Because other companies will think twice before trying similar schemes. Dubem set down his briefcase and pulled out folders. But you're right that we're not done. Emeka still has powerful friends. The minister whose nephew owns the shell company? He's already issuing statements calling this a foreign conspiracy to undermine Nigerian sovereignty. He's spinning the Huashia whistleblower as Chinese interference in Nigerian business. That's ridiculous. That's politics. Truth doesn't matter. Only who controls the narrative. Dubem opened a folder showing newspaper clippings and printed screenshots. By tomorrow afternoon, Half the country will believe you're a Chinese puppet being used to destroy Nigerian businesses. The other half will call you a hero. And somewhere in the middle, you'll need to decide what kind of leader you actually want to be. Leader, Obioma laughed bitterly. I'm not a leader. I'm a cleaner who got lucky. Chief Ikenna didn't think so. Dubem pulled out a yellowed envelope from his briefcase. I went through his personal effects today. His widow gave me permission. I found this. It's addressed to you, dated 2 weeks before he died. Obioma's hands trembled as she took the envelope. Her name was written in shaky handwriting. Uncle Ikenna's hand, weakened by illness but still recognizable. She opened it carefully. My dear Obioma, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you've discovered what I left you. I imagine you're confused, perhaps angry that I placed this burden on your shoulders without warning. Let me explain. Your father was the best man I ever knew. When everyone else in our village said I was foolish for investing in business instead of buying land, your father believed in me. When my first company failed and I lost everything, your father gave me his savings, money he'd been saving to build a house, and told me to try again. I built Zenith Holdings with that money. Every naira of profit, every successful deal, every achievement. It all started with your father's faith in me. I tried to repay him 1,000 times. He refused. He said friends don't keep accounts. When he got sick, I paid for every treatment, every hospital stay. It wasn't enough. I watched my brother die knowing I'd never truly repaid my debt, so I'm paying it to you. Not with money. Money is easy. I'm paying it with opportunity, with power, with the chance to do what your father would have done if he'd lived. Make things better. I know you're not educated in business. I know people will say you're unqualified. Let them talk. Some of the best leaders in history were unqualified until they proved otherwise. What you have that they lack is something much more valuable. You understand struggle. You know what it's like to choose between food and medicine. You know what it's like to watch siblings go hungry because there isn't enough. The people running companies like Zenith have forgotten these things. They've forgotten that businesses exist to serve people, not just to generate profits. They've forgotten that every employee is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's hope for a better future. I'm giving you my shares because I trust you to remember what they forgot. You'll make mistakes, everyone does, but you'll make them while trying to do right, not while trying to get rich. Be brave, Obioma. Be honest. Be kind when you can, and fierce when you must. Your father would be proud of you. I already am. With love and faith, Uncle Ikenna Obioma read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Uncle Ikenna hadn't given her the shares out of sentiment or pity. He'd given them to her because he believed she could do something meaningful with them. He was wrong, she whispered. I'm not brave. I'm terrified, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Neither did he when he started, Dubem said gently. Neither does anyone, really. We all just do our best and hope it's enough. Obioma's phone buzzed. A message from Mr. What Jibadibo? TVC interview scheduled for 6 p.m. today. I know you're scared, but Nigeria needs to hear from you. I'll be there with you. You're not alone in this. Another message, this one from Weichen. Huaxia executives want to meet you properly. Not secretly this time. Officially. They want to discuss legitimate partnerships. You've impressed them. And one more, from an unfamiliar number but a familiar tone. This is blessing from accounts. Everyone in the company is behind you. We're organizing a petition supporting your leadership. Don't give up on us. Obioma looked at Dubem. The interview. What do I even say? How do I explain any of this? Tell the truth. Tell them about your father, about Uncle Ikenna, about cleaning toilets while owning the building. Tell them what you want to do with this power now that you have it, Dubem smiled. And then tell them about the schools you're going to fund, the healthcare programs, the fair wage initiatives. Make them understand that this isn't about one girl getting rich. It's about changing how business is done in Nigeria. Schools? Healthcare? I haven't planned any of that. Then start planning. You have 12 hours before the interview. Dubem stood up, stretching. I'm going to sleep for exactly 3 hours. Then we're going to draft the most inspiring vision statement Nigeria has ever heard. Get some rest. Tomorrow changes everything. But Obioma couldn't sleep. Instead, she pulled out a notebook and started writing. Ideas tumbled out faster than her hand could capture them. Scholarship program for children of low-income workers, focus on girls' education. Healthcare fund for employees and their families, no one should die from preventable illness. Whistleblower protection program, reward employees who report corruption. Minimum wage review, everyone who works full-time should be able to afford food and rent. Community investment, 10% of profits to support infrastructure in underserved neighborhoods. The list grew longer as dawn broke over Lagos. By the time Dubem woke up, Obioma had filled 10 pages with ideas. Some practical, some ambitious, all genuine. "This," Dubem said, reading through her notes over breakfast. "This is what you say in the interview. Not corporate speak, not polished politician promises. This raw, honest vision of what you want to build." The day passed in a blur of preparation. Mrs. Ngozi helped Obioma pick an outfit for the interview. Nothing too expensive, she was supposed to be relatable, but professional enough to be taken seriously. The twins braided her hair in elaborate cornrows. Obina gave her an awkward hug and said, "Don't let them make you feel small, sister. You're bigger than they know." At 5:30 p.m., they arrived at TVC Studios in Ikeja. The parking lot was packed with news vans, cameras, reporters shouting questions. The security team formed a protective circle, pushing through the crowd. Inside, the studio was controlled chaos. Production assistants rushed around with clipboards. Cameras moved on wheeled platforms. The host, Zainab Musa, was exactly as Obioma had imagined, elegant, sharp-eyed, radiating competence in a fitted blue dress. "Miss Nwankwo, thank you for coming." Zainab shook her hand firmly. "I'll be honest, this interview will be tough. I'm going to ask hard questions because that's what Nigeria needs, but I promise to be fair. Deal?" "Deal," Obioma said, though her stomach churned. They sat across from each other in directors' chairs, bright lights making everything feel surreal. A makeup artist dabbed powder on Obioma's face. Someone attached a microphone to her collar. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. "Good evening, Nigeria. I'm Zainab Musa, and tonight we have an extraordinary story. Obioma Nwankwo. Until last week, she cleaned toilets at Zenith Holdings for 30,000 naira per month. Today, she's the majority shareholder of that same company, worth an estimated 375 million naira. She's also the woman who exposed massive corruption at the highest levels of Nigerian business. Miss Nwankwo, welcome. Thank you for having me. Let's start with the obvious question. Did you know Chief Ikenna Nwosu planned to leave you his shares?" "No, Ma. I had no idea. Uncle Ikenna was my father's best friend. He was kind to us, but I never imagined this." Obioma gestured vaguely, encompassing everything. "Some people say you don't deserve this inheritance, that you lack the education and experience to control a major corporation. What's your response?" Obioma took a breath. "They're right. I don't have an MBA. I've never taken a business course. Until last week, the most important decision I made was which cleaning product worked best on marble floors." She paused. "But I know things they don't know. I know what it's like to choose between buying food and paying rent. I know what it's like to watch my brother drop out of school because we couldn't afford fees. I know what it's like to work 12-hour days and still not earn enough to survive." "And that qualifies you to run a company?" "No. But it qualifies me to care about the people who make that company actually work. The cleaners, the drivers, the security guards, the secretaries, the people who come in before dawn and leave after dark, who keep everything running while executives take credit." Obioma's voice grew stronger. "Those people deserve better than what they've been getting. They deserve fair wages, safe working conditions, health care, respect. If I'm unqualified for anything, it's for ignoring those things the way qualified executives have been doing for years." Zainab's eyebrow raised slightly. A good sign, Obioma hoped. "You exposed CEO Emeka Okonkwo for corruption. That took courage. But some say you're being manipulated by foreign interests, specifically Chinese investors trying to undermine Nigerian businesses. How do you respond?" "I respond by asking, why is exposing theft considered undermining Nigerian business? What kind of business are we protecting? Honest business or corrupt business?" Obioma leaned forward. "Emeka Okonkwo was planning to steal $50 million meant for infrastructure. Bridges that would collapse, roads that would crack, water systems that would poison instead of clean. People would have died so he could buy another luxury car. If stopping that is foreign interference, then we need more foreign interference, not less." Strong words. But aren't you worried about retaliation? Emeka Okonkwo is a powerful man with powerful friends. "I'm terrified," Obioma admitted. "Last night, someone called and threatened my siblings. Someone who knew exactly where we were staying, what they eat for breakfast. I barely slept." She looked directly at the camera. "But being terrified doesn't mean you give up. My father taught me that. He was terrified every day, terrified he couldn't feed us, couldn't pay for medicine, couldn't give us the future we deserved, but he never gave up trying. I owe him better than to surrender because someone makes threats. What do you want to do with your position now? What's your vision for Zenith Holdings? This was the moment. Obioma pulled out her notebook, the one filled with ideas scrawled in the pre-dawn hours. I want to create a scholarship program for children of low-income workers, especially girls who often get overlooked when families can't afford to educate everyone. I want a healthcare fund so no employee's child dies from preventable illness because they couldn't afford treatment. I want whistleblower protection so people can report corruption without losing their jobs. I want fair minimum wages so full-time workers can actually survive on their paychecks. She looked up from the notebook. And I want other companies to see what we're doing and realize they can do it too, that profit and decency aren't enemies. Ambitious. Some would say impossible. Everything is impossible until someone does it. Chief Ikenna built Zenith Holdings from nothing. My father believed in him when no one else did. Now I'm asking Nigeria to believe in me the same way, not because I'm qualified by traditional measures, but because I care enough to try. Final question. What do you say to young people watching this who feel powerless, who feel like the system is rigged against them? Obioma thought about her siblings watching from home, about Blessing and the other employees who'd brought her gifts, about every person in Mushin and neighborhoods like it, struggling against impossible odds. I say, you're not powerless. You might feel powerless because the system wants you to feel that way, because when poor people believe they can't change anything, they don't try. But the system is just people, and people can be beaten. She smiled slightly. A week ago, I was scrubbing toilets. Today I fired the man who humiliated me and exposed his crimes to the whole country. If I can do that, imagine what you can do. Imagine what we can all do together. The interview ended. The lights dimmed. Zainab stood and shook Obioma's hand again, this time with genuine warmth. That was remarkable. You're a natural. I just told the truth. The truth, delivered well, is the most powerful thing in the world. Obioma's phone exploded with notifications as they left the studio. The interview was already trending on Twitter. Clips were being shared on WhatsApp. Her mentions were a mix of praise and vitriol, but she'd stopped caring what strangers thought. In the car ride back to the safe house, Mrs. Ngozi was crying. That was beautiful, child. Chief Ikenna was right about you. What happens now? Obioma asked Dubem. Now? Now the real work begins. He showed her his phone. Messages from government officials, business leaders, journalists, all requesting meetings. You've positioned yourself as a reformer, a crusader for workers' rights. People will either rally behind you or try to destroy you, probably both. And Emeka? Dubem's expression darkened. EFCC raided his house this afternoon, found evidence of embezzlement, tax evasion, money laundering. He's been arrested. Bail hearing is tomorrow, but with this much public attention, the government can't afford to go easy on him. He's going to prison, Obioma. You did that. Obioma felt no satisfaction, just exhaustion. What about his family, his children? Why do you care about his children? He threatened yours. Because they didn't choose their father any more than I chose mine. They don't deserve to suffer for his crimes. She thought about her own father, imperfect but decent, gone too soon. Maybe there's a fund or something to help the families of people who go to prison, so children don't starve because their parents made mistakes. Mrs. Ngozi laughed through her tears. Only you would expose a man and then try to help his children. You're impossible, Obioma. I'm trying to be better than he was. Isn't that the point? They arrived at the safe house to find Obioma's siblings glued to the television, watching replay of the interview. Obina looked up, his eyes shining. Sister, you were amazing. Everyone at school is going to see this. Everyone in Nigeria. Are you embarrassed? Obioma asked. Embarrassed? I'm proud. My sister is the bravest person in the whole country. The twins tackled her in a hug, both talking at once about how their friends were messaging them, how they were famous now, how everything was going to be different. And it was different. That night, as Obioma lay in bed in the safe house, security guards outside, her siblings sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, she realized the terrified cleaner from last week was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who'd discovered what she was capable of when pushed. Her phone buzzed one last time, a message from Mr. Gbadebo. Board meeting next week to discuss your proposed programs. Prepare detailed plans. This is your chance to prove you're not just brave. You're brilliant too. Don't waste it. Obioma smiled in the darkness. Uncle Ikenna had given her power. Emeka had tried to take it away. The board had questioned whether she deserved it, but only she could decide what to do with it. and she was just getting started. 3 months later, the Lagos Business Tribune ran a feature story, "The Obioma Effect: How One Woman is Changing Corporate Culture in Nigeria." Zenith Holdings had implemented every program Obioma proposed. 200 scholarship recipients, mostly girls from low-income families, had started school. The healthcare fund had saved 17 lives in its first quarter. Whistleblower reports had exposed corruption at 3 other major companies. And the company's profits had actually increased as employee morale soared and turnover plummeted. Other corporations, seeing Zenith's success, were starting their own reform initiatives. Not all of them, not even most, but enough to matter. The conversation was changing. Emeka Okonkwo had been sentenced to 12 years in prison for embezzlement and fraud. His wife had filed for divorce. His children, Obioma made sure, received educational support and counseling through a fund she'd established quietly, without publicity. On the day the article published, Obioma stood in her office, Chief Ikena's office, and looked out at Lagos. The same chaotic, beautiful, frustrating, hopeful city it had always been, but different somehow. Or maybe she was different. Her phone rang. Obinna, calling from his new school, a good one he'd earned admission to through the scholarship program. "Sister, did you see? We're in the newspaper. They're calling you a hero." "I'm not a hero, Obinna. I'm just someone who got a chance and tried not to waste it." "That's what heroes are, though. Normal people who do brave things when they get the chance." He paused. "I'm going to be like you when I grow up. I'm going to change things, too." After they hung up, Obioma stood at the window a little longer. Below, she could see the entrance where Tunde stood guard, where cleaning staff arrived before dawn, where hundreds of employees came each day to work. She'd been one of them. Now she was responsible for them. The weight of it should have been crushing. Instead, it felt like purpose. There would be more battles, more Emikas, more threats, more people saying she didn't belong. But she'd faced the worst they could throw at her and survived. More than survived, she'd won. And she was just getting started.